Hello, everyone. This is Mike from the On the Stack podcast at icewarm.org/magic, back with another deck video. Today's deck, we're going to be focusing on a mono green landfall deck from Battle for Zendikar. Let's take a look. Starting off with our lands, I have 20 forests and I have 4 evolving wilds. You can play them, tap them, sacrifice them to search your library for a basic land, and put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. This will trigger landfall twice because you're playing evolving wilds. You're then sacrificing evolving wilds to bring in a basic land. So you get 2 landfall triggers off of that. Into our artifacts, I just have 2 slab hammers. They cost 2 colorless and 2 to equip. Whenever equipped creature attacks, you may return a land you control to its owner's hand. If you do, the creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. So it's a good way to also ensure your landfall will trigger each turn because you'll be returning a land, so you always have a land if you choose to do that. Into our creatures, I have four blister pods. They cost 1 green for a 1/1. It's devoid, and when it dies, it generates a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion token that you can sacrifice to add 1 colorless to your mana pool. I have 3 Jodi Offshoot. Costs 1 green for a 0/3 defender. It also has landfall, so whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. I have 2 Lifespring Druid. Costs 2 colorless and a green. It's a 2/1. You can also tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. I have 1 Nissa Vastwood Seer. She costs 2 colorless and a green for a 2/2. When she enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic forest card, reveal it, and then put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands, exile Nissa and return her to the battlefield transformed under her owner's control. And she returns as Nissa Sage Animist. She's a planeswalker with 3 loyalty to start. Her +1 ability is reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield, otherwise put it into your hand. So it's a good way to trigger landfall, or to also basically just draw cards with that ability. She has a -2 ability to put a legendary 4/4 green elemental creature token named Ashea, the Awoken World, onto the battlefield. And finally, her ultimate at -7 is untap up to 6 target lands. They become 6/6 elemental creatures that are also still lands. And into the rest of our creatures, we have 4 Scythe Leopards for 1 green for a 1/1 with landfall. So when a land enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. There's 4 Snapping Gnarlids for 1 colorless, 1 green for a 2/2 with landfall. So whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. And 3 Territorial Balofs for 4 colorless, 1 green for a 4/4. And it also has landfall, so whenever a land enters a battlefield under your control, it gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. Into the enchantments, I just have 2 Zendikar's Royal, which costs 3 colorless, 2 green. Whenever a land enters a battlefield under your control, put a 2/2 green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. Into the instants, I have 3 Natural Connection for 2 colorless and a green. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So it's a good way to trigger your landfall on your opponent's turn. So if they're attacking, you can play this and buff up your landfall creatures so they can survive damage or deal or kill stuff when it's being blocked. We also have 2 Plummet for 1 colorless and a green. Destroy target creature with flying. Some pretty good removal based on flying. And we have 2 Swell of Growth. 1 colorless, 1 green. Target creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you can do this at instant speed, buff up a creature, and then if it's a landfall creature, you can also buff it up again when you play that land. And finally, into our sorceries, I just have 2 Call the Scions for 2 colorless and a green. It's devoid. Put 2 colorless 1/1 Eldrazi Scion tokens onto the battlefield, and they have the ability to sacrifice them to add 1 mana or 1 colorless to your mana pool. And 2 Reclaiming Vines. 2 colorless, 2 green. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. So if you have I like that it's very versatile. You can go after enchantments, artifacts, or lands. And if they just awoke a land, you can basically destroy that land with this, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty fun deck. Some pretty cool ways to trigger landfall, especially with the evolving wilds combo, and also being able to trigger landfall on your opponent's turns as well. Let me know what you think of the deck. Leave a comment below. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.